Wouldn't it be fantastic if a decision to clean out an old drawer could lead you to uncover a system that transforms people out of frustrated individuals into action takers and moves them out of a stuck state into a momentum? What if that road was painful and long? Would it be worth it to you, and would you still take it? Well, you don't have to, because I did it for you, and I have the notes. And it actually brought me to a place today where I've seen hundreds of clients in multiple countries, varied cultures and walks of life, including CEOs, parents, teens, physicians, and other therapists, completely transformed the minute they understood and applied the system that is made up of 4 steps, and the one that I get to share with you today. My name is Nino Fincher, and when I'm asked about what I do, I say I move people out of emotional paralysis into freedom, partly because I know exactly what it's like to be paralyzed by inaction, because in my 20s, the most brutal of stagnations descended upon me like a ton of bricks and crushed me into a misery that was debilitating, terrifying, and all-consuming. Most people know it as depression. And I couldn't sleep, I couldn't read, I couldn't pray, I couldn't parent. It felt like agony. And for me, it lasted over 3 years, which is really nothing compared to the people I have helped through my coaching and rapid transformational therapy practice who have struggled with it for 7, 19, some for 48 years. The reason I'm talking about it is because depression really is a stagnant state. It's a rut. So is anxiety. So is I can't get past this fill in the blank. So is we don't talk to each other anymore. Any frustration or any struggle can turn into a rut, and most people think that they're not moving because they're stuck, but really they're stuck because they're not moving. Move is the first step out of that state. In fact, if you know what I mean when I say stagnation is miserable, I want you to say yes. Yes. Whether it's being stuck in line or in traffic or not being able to get in shape or struggling to start a business, or what about those dark and invisible ones like toxic thinking or guilt or shame or fear? Everyone experiences at one point or another. And the definition of the stagnant state is really a habit or a pattern of behavior that doesn't change or has become dull, or a state that doesn't grow or develop. But the truth about it is that it doesn't just keep you in one place. It actually spirals down and drags you down with it, from annoyance to frustration to anger to self-loathing to bitterness, and then it just lets you sit there and stew in the toxicity of those thoughts that is so debilitating and so weakening that your worst enemy would just have to do nothing but sit back and allow that disorder and deterioration to kind of do its work, and only ensure that you maintain the state of entropy by keeping neglect and inaction. For me, the first step that I needed to take was to clean that drawer I mentioned before. It was another day of me feeling sorry for myself and being miserable. And I was sitting on the sofa, and suddenly I saw that drawer, and I thought, I wonder what's in it. I need to clean that thing out. I just had to do something different from what I've been doing. So I started cleaning that drawer, and I uncovered that there was a tape there that I didn't remember was in it. It was called Questions of a Man in Agony. And I thought, my goodness, how did they know? So somebody did, and it was this talk by Dr. Ravi Zacharias, and I decided to start listening to it. And starting to listen to that talk got me out of my state into a place of learning, into a place of healing, and to a recovery that led me to a momentum eventually. Move is your first step. Can everybody say move? Move. But the minute you start moving, you're going to inevitably come up against that obstacle, which is a thought that you cannot overcome, that one thing that keeps you from succeeding. And while I'm here, I want to demonstrate to you how that's a lie as well. So if you wouldn't mind helping me with this, I would like to list a few things, and as I list these things, if you can identify with any of them, or you know somebody close to you who has overcome any of them, would you mind please raising your hand and keeping it up? Please raise your hand if you have ever overcome a loss. Keep it up. Raise your hand if you've ever overcome betrayal. How about neglect or abuse or a feeling of not being enough? Look around the room, ladies and gentlemen. What you're looking at right now is the evidence of your resilience. You can put your hands down. It's the proof that you all have walked through something hideously difficult and have lived to tell the tale. And I would love for you to take a mental picture of that and keep it in your mind for the next time you run up against the wall and start accidentally welcoming the thoughts that you're somehow a loser, or you're alone, or you're not capable of change. You have been designed to overcome. In fact, you already have. Not only that, but you know how genetics is all about physical aspect of your DNA? Well, epigenetics, which literally means above the genes, is a science that talks about how you can switch your genes on and off, like a light switch, depending on whether or not you position yourself in the right environment, adapt a different thinking, and engage an emotional state that matches the two. It's really like playing an instrument. You know, if you're like me and you can play Twinkle Twinkle with one finger, it's going to get old real fast. But now imagine a Mozart sitting at an instrument and playing variations on the theme and hitting all 88 keys. I mean, you're dealing with a whole nother experience now, aren't you? Your genes can literally do that. It's extraordinary. It's that you can engage and turn on the genes by starting to think differently, engaging your emotional state to match that, and positioning yourself in a different environment, which is extraordinary. Plus, your beautiful brain has the capacity to literally physically change. Neuroplasticity can be summed up in 3 words. I can change. Look at your neighbor and say, you can change. Now look at your other neighbor and say, hi, overcomer. It's amazing. Your brain can literally form a new neural connection, and it only takes about 21 days. So not only are you designed to overcome, but you already have. And so when you combine that with that first movement, soon you're going to become unstoppable. So your second step is overcome. Now for your third step, the question is this thing that you're trying to get out of a rut for worth it? Why is it worth it? And says who? Because that will allow you to establish the value of an outcome in itself, get clear on your values, and then decide whether it is that something you really want or you're doing it because somebody else says so. And in order to get that clarity, you have to run out of every because possible. And what I mean by that is when you ask the why question, you have to honestly respond to it with the because. And once you clear every because to every question that you ask, you will now have found the treasure. And your heart will always follow where your treasure is. For me, it was getting clear that I needed to create some kind of a movement instead of just sitting still and being overwhelmed by my misery, which led me to listening to that recording, which led me to eventually uncover what I was made of and what I was made for. And then understanding that having gained all of that, now I can serve somebody and help somebody with the same things that I was stuck in, which is literally a definition of your purpose. So your third step is value. And the fourth step reminds me of a time when I was in a grocery store and a cashier was ringing up my items, completely disengaged. I don't think he even looked at me. And suddenly he turned around and looked me right in the eye and said, "If you had a superpower, what would it be?" And I didn't even have time to think it through. He immediately proceeded to tell me about his, because clearly he had thought about it quite a lot. And that was interesting. But the important part is this: you and I actually share a superpower, and it's our capacity to expect. You actually have the capacity to determine what outcome you're going to anticipate. And that's extraordinary because you can decide on anticipating a faithful and positive and empowering outcome, or a doubtful, negative, and a weakening outcome. Either way, both of them are non-existent in the present. They're both contrived and imagined through your brain's and your mind's incredible capacity to paint pictures for itself. So why not paint a picture that is actually worth moving towards and frame it in the way that allows you to succeed? Ladies and gentlemen, we are made to overcome, to move, to win, to heal, and to succeed. All you need to remember is those 4 steps. Number 1 is move, and that's understanding that you have to create some kind of a movement that's different from what you've been used to. Number 2 is overcome. That's remembering that you already have, and you're here to tell the story. Number 3 is value, and value is your clarity about your purpose and understanding where your treasure is, because your heart will always follow your treasure. And finally, expect. And that is your ability to create images and paint pictures for your mind that are worthy to move towards. MOVE. Thank you for being an amazing audience.